So, after brief consideration, I decided to stick with tradition. I recorded the opening of my Surface Pro 1, my Surface Pro 2, my Surface Pro 3, so I might as well record the grand opening of my Surface Pro 4. So I just came back from the Microsoft store, and I of course have some very nice goodies here. When you buy the Surface Pro 4, there is a bundle available to you. You can buy the complete care warranty, a Surface Pro 4 keyboard, and an Office 365 home subscription for $330 Canadian. I opted to do that because the complete care warranty has, on a number of occasions, really saved my bacon. So let's start again. Now, I remember when I first opened my Surface Pro 3 a year ago, or more than that now, I opened it up and it fell out of the box face first because there isn't as much packaging as you would think. So I'm going to be careful of that. I've already noticed that this side is up, but even so, I'm going to check again, and yes, there's the opening here, and we're going to put this part of the box over there. Now, I am assuming from the fact that this packaging has been changed somewhat to have a cover, and there it is, there's the device, that I was not the only Doomkov who opened up their Surface Pro 3 box and ended up with the computer falling all over the place. So I'm glad that we got that out of the way. Here's the Stylus, which I'm going to put over here with these wet naps and other things. Here is the Surface Pro 4 manual, which, in keeping with tradition as well, I will not open because I've never opened one of them before. And here's the power supply. It shouldn't be any different, or at least shouldn't be much different, from my Surface Pro 3 power supplies. And yeah, it is exactly the same thing. So what I'm going to do, rather than opening this up, I am going to go and pick up my Surface Pro 3 power supply and leave this one sealed and intact. Bear with me a moment. I'm back. I have the Pro 3 power supply, which is just about identical to the Pro 4 power supply. I'm going to plug it in over here, and there we go. We should be ready to rumble, as they say. Now, I've always kept the boxes, and I will keep that tradition alive and keep this box too, but in keeping with the tradition, they sit in the corner and do absolutely nothing until I eventually sell or trade in the device and either give the box or throw it out. Now, unlike the last times I did this, I actually have my older Pro 3 to compare it to. So let's actually look at the two devices side by side. This one has been sitting in its leather portfolio, and I was using it on the train earlier today, so it may be a little bit dirty, but that just gives it character and color and flavor. So I've got the two, and we'll open up the plastic shroud for the Pro 4, and side by side, the first thing that grabs my attention is the fact that there's no Windows button on the Pro 4 like there was on the Pro 3. That's going to give the Pro 4 a slightly larger screen footprint, which is very nice. I also noticed that there's a couple of millimeters difference when I lie them flat, although maybe it's 1 millimeter, it's not a whole lot more than that. And when I open them up, side by side, they should look nearly identical. Now, from the back, we see this one says Surface over here, and of course we have the SurfaceSmiths.com sticker, which is giving free advertising to my friends who run that podcast. Go visit them at SurfaceSmiths.com. And here we have the Windows logo, but aside from that, they look about the same. What will look very different, I've picked the teal keyboard. Now, if you want to know why I picked teal, I've gone through between my Surface Pro 1, 2, and 3s, every other flavor and color of keyboard imaginable, and I honestly don't want, I really don't want that light blue that I haven't had but also don't want. Now, if I want to cheat, I can say that my ex-wife did have it, so I guess to one degree or another I did have one, but it's not the color of choice for me. I'm looking for a knife that will open it up. Here we go. If you ever want to, cook with the Surface, this knife will do wonderfully, and I'll open up. There we go. Oops. And let's see if here's another piece of tape over here. Yeah, I could have just taken this piece of tape off over here, and I'll pull out the Bride of Frankenstein butcher knife. Okay. Now, the keyboard, I can see before I even open the package a significant difference between the Pro 3 keyboard and the Pro 4 keyboard. Now, I'm going to pull out my old one. Now, this particular one is red, but I have a couple of other colors hanging around as well. Here we see the keys are flush against another, whereas here we see there's room between the keys. This is going to be a much more comfortable keyboard, and while the keyboard itself is about the same dimensions, we see that these keys go closer to the end than do these. Here we have a full finger. Here we've only got a couple of millimeters. So I've tried this out in the store, and I really did feel a huge difference when typing. Oh, the magnets feels a little bit stronger. And let me plug it in. And I see that I have power. And let's take a look around before I turn it on. The difference is here. Here I had my volume buttons on the side and the power button up top. Here I've got the power button and the volume on the top. On the other side, well, I have my mini DV and my USB 3 and my power, and they look to be in about the same place. I know because I've spoken to some people that they're not exactly in the same place, and that's okay. That means that when I plug it into my docking station, I'm going to need a dongle, or a shim as they call it. I'm also very glad that they kept to the same reasonable form factor, because I have this is my Juice Systems hub, which has two USB ports, USB 3 ports I should point out, and an SD card and a micro SD card reader. And it is designed by Juice Systems, www.juicesystems.com, to fit into this device perfectly. Now, the one thing I will notice, it is a little tighter, and if that sounds like a complaint, it's not. I found it to be very loose on the Surface Pro 3, and that led to connectivity issues. What I don't like is that now with the slightly different form factor, I cannot have the Juice Systems hub and my power plugged in at the same time. I'll deal with that later. I'm going to turn on the device, and it's telling me, hey, Surface, Now I'm plugging it in for the first time, or I'm turning it on for the first time, so it's going to bring me to the out-of-box experience. But we see that the keyboard is nicely lit up. I do like the fact that the trackpad is much larger on this keyboard than it was on the previous keyboard. And we're ready to go. So I'm going to install my computer, and thanks for watching.